So basically they discovered this thing about a while ago, and I mean, Anton Petrov actually made a video about this, so I'm kind of late to this, but there was these things called galactic fibrements that are found throughout the universe, and they all run along like a dark matter, as well as galactic clusters. So basically, they say they're at least hundreds of millions of light years long. And now keep in mind, 1 light year is 5.88 trillion miles. So every light year you times that. But if you really want to think about it a little bit more, it's basically like, you know, because there's no end to it in sight, and because the universe is obviously way bigger than this. Time, I mean, even if you want to argue time travels differently in space, light still takes like a little bit more. I still do think that this is just like one of the structures, and there's tons more out there. You know, there's so much stuff we don't know. And yet at the same time, though, you know, whether you believe the universe is already infinite, there's an infinite number of universes, there's always the argument of what's already inside of the universe and how fast it's expanding, because that can still happen, you know, because obviously the universe doesn't have like some end in sight, but it could very well just keep going. So what's really interesting, what I find really interesting about it, is like, you know, for every galaxy we seem to discover, you have like another infinite amount of possibilities. And if you're talking about like millions of galaxies, if not trillions, and just infinite, countless, you're basically talking about, it does make you wonder, like, you know, how far the, it really does make you wonder as far as, you know, these objects go, like how far they can basically rain for and dissipate, you know. So it does make you wonder how fast they rotate in space, but at the same time, though, it does make you wonder how fast everything's moving around, so we don't really know how fast everything's going. It's very interesting indeed, because I think what's really interesting is cosmology has stated, as well as quantum physics, that everything is infinite, and even if it wasn't, you know, even nothing is still something. So with that argument in place, it really just kind of becomes a matter of like, you know, what we don't know and how much we do know. And obviously there's more than we'll ever know, and there's more questions than we'll have answers. But it does make you think, though, you know, how many galaxies, universes, and what's even beyond the universe. Like now that I'm starting to finally being able to understand like how to imagine like the fourth dimension, you know, now we can start to really draw in our heads, like, you know, how far out the fifth and sixth and, you know, etc. But it's just a stable, like, if you really think about it, if there really is a beginning, then it really does still make you wonder what that beginning really was, because there could have been a beginning for that, and then maybe it's not the really true number one thing that had happened, you know. But it just does make you think, though, you know, you think about how big the universe is, you think about all these different structures we don't see, and at the same time, but they're out there. And, you know, even our planet where we're closest to, and even we still haven't figured out, even if you were to time lapse everything on the earth in that present time, you know, you could still do it again, but in a different time period. And it just makes you think, like, how many things we don't see. And I think that's a good argument to really make, because like with like any of these large structures in the universe, it does make you think like how fast they're rotating, or what they're made up of, and what's inside of them, and what does it all mean. You know, I think it's all progress personally, but it very well could mean something far greater. And if anything, I mean, for something that's like a really large object, that means it's got a larger circumference, meaning like the distance around it, not just straight through like a diameter or radius. But or the radius would be the half point, the diameter would be the full point. So anytime you see a radius, just times it by 2. But what's really interesting, though, is like, you know, for something like a circumference, it has a larger orbit cycle. You know, so if these objects are really super large, you're talking millions of light years, and they're rotating really fast, faster than most things we know in space, that's going to be rotating pretty fast then. So if that is true, and math doesn't really lie as long as you have the right, you know, equations somehow, it does make you think, you know, what we don't see, what we don't know, and it does make me want to make more videos about this, the more information we can gather, because if anything, I'm more convinced than ever before that the universe really does have an infinite number of cycles, and therefore that is proof that it can be infinite, because everything's made of energy. You can't destroy energy, it can only be converted. And really, even the closest thing that could destroy actual matter is antimatter. But even that's been proven when it does exist, that it just turns something into energy. It just turns it right back into some sort of radiation, and it just creates an infinite cycle of some kind of heat, light, or some kind of material, something. But again, you know, whatever that is and what we have to find out, we'll figure it out as time goes on. But until then, it's basically, you know, just the more we discover, the more we get to say, hey, you know what, we really aren't alone in the universe. And I don't believe it either. I mean, why is this planet here, but all these other planets are out there, and we're supposed to believe they don't exist? I guarantee you that is proof right there that there's aliens out there somehow, one way or another. Because if we could exist on this planet, why wouldn't there be other planets that have something on it, or might have had something on it before? So again, something to think about. But anyways, I'll be making more videos. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, and I will find more information about this regarding this. So good luck.